that so much. Nutrition is one key influencer of that body weight. Another key influencer of body weight is the activity level. We have categories of activity levels. There are those who are highly active, meaning that they engage in physical exercise. Physical exercise, I will call it aerobic exercises. That which activity you do until you are able to sweat, until you are able to produce some sweat. So then, the activity level. Then other influencers are now like gender. The males, the females, the age are also influencers. Now, I want to focus on these two key influencers of body weight: nutrition and then physical activity. When we focus on nutrition, we want to address the W's of eating, the W's of eating and the H of eating. First, let's be guided by our question: why do we eat? Each one of us, let's try to answer that. Why do we eat? We eat for various reasons, isn't it? And these reasons, they have to be known to us, because many a times the reasons we eat influences the food choices. We eat first so that we can gain some energy to do work. In the foods we eat, we have to get nutrients from such foods so that we get the energy to do work, not the energy to go and sleep. Because when you are sleeping, you are only utilizing energy to breathe and the body to support the body activities like digestion, metabolism, and the likes. So when we eat, we should know why we are eating. When you answer yourselves and you know the reason why you are eating and the what you are eating, then we want to combine it with the how we eat what we eat, so that we march towards a healthy body weight. First, it is also good to know your body weight. Having known now what constitutes this body weight, it is good to know that our body weight influences our healthy lifestyle. So, for you to establish and to know your body weight, a quick way of doing it is getting to know your body mass index, the BMI. The BMI, you obtain your BMI, you compute your BMI, or you calculate your BMI by having your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters square. And I want to appreciate so much that people are very much conscious of the weight. People talk of watching the diet because they want to have some acceptable weight, some ideal weight. And so we have those categories of body mass index. When you have calculated your body mass index, which is an exercise that if you do not know your BMI, your body mass index, you can do it at a later time so that you are aware of what you want to handle. So a body mass index of less than 18.5, that is an underweight. Underweight, a body mass index of less than 18.5, that is underweight. Underweight also has risks of diseases. More so, nutrient deficiencies, like those vitamin and mineral deficiencies, they are at risk of infectious disease. When you become sick, when you're underweight, Healing process takes longer compared to an individual of ideal or of a normal body weight or of a normal body mass index. A body mass index of 18.4.9, that is the normal body mass index or the normal weight. Then a body mass index of 25 to 29.9, that is overweight. You're falling in the category of overweight. Then the body mass index of 30 and more, that is the category of obesity. Within obesity are also classes of obesity. 30 to 35, body mass index is line 1, class 1, type 1, obesity, are risks to non-communicable diseases including diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, heart conditions, a risk to even some of the chronic diseases like cancers. A body mass index of 35 to 40, that is type 2 diabetes, type 2 obesity, which is also a great risk to diabetes and coronary heart diseases. A body mass index of more than 40, now that is an increased risk to death, an increased risk to death. Having known your body mass index, then you want to work towards, now that you know you can place yourself somewhere, you can tell yourself whether you are underweight or whether you are within the obese category. So having known your body mass index, then how do we now attain that ideal body mass index, the normal body mass index, and how do we maintain it all through? Because the high body mass index, as we know, overweight, obesity, depicts the constitution, the weight, the much weight that is contributed by the fat. Fat, as we know, is a form of energy. Its sort of key role in the body is to provide energy. But the body just needs a bit of that. Fat, together with the carbohydrates, their key roles in the body is to provide energy. And the most preferred form of energy is glucose. Glucose obtained from carbohydrates. And these carbohydrates, that is the preferred energy for use by the brain cells. Fat would contribute energy, yes, but just a little of it. A little of it. Excess of the fat is stored directly in the body tissues, what we call the adipose tissues, mostly concentrated around the chest, around the abdomen, because that is where we have the vital organs which they protect. But again, other than that, it is just stored. It builds, gradually it builds, and then at the end of the day, this cumulative fat now affects even the functionality of those organs that they protect, those organs that they cushion from injury. Now, when we are addressing body weight, going back to nutrition, the what, the when, the where, and the how. Now, in order to keep ideal body mass index or ideal body weight, we have to embrace healthy eating habits. Healthy eating habits. We all know of healthy foods, and we are very much conscious of our health and what we eat and I appreciate that. Kenyans really are very much conscious. They are very much conscious of what they eat. They are very much conscious of their weight, both men and women, and of late even children. Children nowadays, they don't want to be big, isn't it? Even the adolescents don't want to be big. It is those days that big bodies, heavy weight was associated with wellness and riches and all that. But presently, the dynamics changes. Now, what we eat influences so much our weight and our body composition. And what we eat influences so much of what we see and what we feel is good food. Now, when you see a food that is good looking, even as it happened also to Eve in the Garden of Eden, she looked at the fruit, it was good and pleasing to the eye, and she ate of it. When you go to the marketplace, when you're buying food, what you buy, what you choose to eat, most of the time will be influenced by what you are seeing. How that food is presented, how that food is. You don't even mind about how it was cooked, but mostly how it is presented. It is appealing to the eye, it is appetizing, and most of the time, food that is appealing to the eye, food that is very much appetizing, most of the time, you will find that this food, it contains some sort of bad fat or bad cholesterol. That is the truth of the matter. Now, when we look at, in our food choices, many a times we end up having unhealthy dietary habits, unhealthy food choices, because we go by our appetite, we go by what we are seeing. So the advice is, don't eat haphazardly. Plan the way you eat. Don't just get anywhere. And whenever you see food, you must plan how we eat, because what we eat, now we are getting to know, it is influenced by what we see, it is influenced by our emotions. The moment you can eat some food, not because you are planning to eat it, but because you find yourself so much excited. You've gotten some good news. So at the end of the day, you choose to eat that food so that you are moved by that state of the mind. You are so much excited, you are so much, and with all this, there is how now it distorts the metabolic or the body metabolic processes. And at the end of the day, you may end up having excess food consumption that will lead into excessive weight. Now, considering the social status, these are some of the factors that eat haphazardly. When we are in festive season, like now we are approaching December, it is in order that you prepare, you plan on how you are going to celebrate, on how you are going to get together as a family. And many a times people would plan on sightseeing events, and in the process, you end up eating haphazardly. You eat because you are in that get-together, a family get-together, you are enjoying with friends, and so the foods that is offered that characterizes a good party are these bad foods. Okay, I call them bad foods because they contain bad cholesterol, they contain bad fat. And remember, I did mention that the most culprit of excessive weight gain, is adipose, the adipose tissue, the fat. Now, because of social status, you tend not to, you want to please somebody. You are invited, you regard this person, you regard your friend highly because they remembered and invited you for a get-together, for a party, for a function, and so you just want to eat, even when you know that you should not be eating cakes, when you know that you should not be eating French fries, the chips, when you know that you should not be eating nyama choma, isn't it? But you will end up eating because so and so is eating it, so and so is eating it, and you want to maintain that relationship. So then, after knowing that what we see, our emotions and all this influences our food choices, then we need to plan well what we eat, where we eat, when we eat, and also how we eat. Now I want to address the how of eating what we eat. Having known that excess body weight, excessive food consumption, then you may be eating the right food, but how you are eating it will still predispose you to overweight, obesity, and the risk to these non-communicable diseases. So how we eat is guided by what we call the serving sizes or the food portion, food portioning. You have a whole plate of ugali. This ugali, you want to eat it, the 2-3 of you. Now you will end up eating so much. You will end up eating so much. The danger with it, the moment the body has enough energy that it is using, the immediately digested and absorbed calories, the absorbed glucose, it goes straight into storage, and it is stored in the form of fat. So then, when you are eating, eat just enough. Eat just enough of each food group. Eat enough of the food group. In the food groups, we have what we call the grains, the cereals, the breads, and it is advisable that when we are eating such, we eat them whole. We eat them whole. Eating them whole meaning they should not be refined, not be dehulled. If it is ugali, eat whole maize meal. Eat whole millet. Eat whole wimbi ugali. If it is chapati, eat the whole wheat chapati. I don't want to talk of brown chapati, because brown, even can be brown, isn't it? People now have the tendency of eating brown. I can make a brown rice, but it is not a whole grain rice. So there has to be, we must be aware of the whole grains and the brown, and the reason I'll talk more of the whole and leave alone the brown. So when we are eating these whole grains and cereals first, it's negligible fat. They have negligible fat, and if consumed, then they are high in fiber. And there is a way in which fiber now manages the fat, even the cholesterol. The fiber binds this fat that is stored in the body tissues, the adipose tissues. It directs it to the liver, where it is going to be handled, and then it is eliminated from the body. So that is the reason we have to eat whole and not eat brown. Amen? Then secondly, we have to mind about the type of fat that we also eat. The type of fat that we eat. But before I get to the type of fat that we are eating, when you are eating this whole meal, ugali, you are eating the right food. What about the quantity? When you are eating the right food and you are eating too much of it, you are eating because you feel I'm doing the right thing because I'm eating it whole. Now I can just eat whole wheat 5 chapati. That one again, you are doing harm to yourself. Much as you are eating the right food, but when you eat it too much, and that is where we fall prey to overweight and obesity. I can tell you for sure, people are aware of what the right foods to eat. But the quantities now is what predisposes us. The quantities, the much that we eat is what predisposes us now to overweight and obesity. Just eat small bits. Small bit. For example, if I tell you, like, you have a round chapati, isn't it? The circumference of the chapati, it's round. And then you portion it. You cut it into quarters. You cut it into eighths. If I will tell you that in one sitting, if you ate a whole chapati, you are doing harm to yourself. Will you agree with me? Now that is the thing. That is the thing. Because I will tell you, by the way, I'm a nutritionist. And that is where we have the problem. As a nutritionist, I'm so much excited because what I do, I see the outcome almost immediately. But what hinders me from seeing that outcome is the way now we will talk. I will tell you what to eat, I will tell you how to go about it, but you see, like, no, this is not realistic. Like now I'm telling you, if you took a whole chapati, you sat with a whole chapati and ate it at one sitting, you are harming yourself, even if it is the right chapati. If you took a ugali and ate a whole half plate of ugali, you are doing harm to yourself. If you took, like for example, bananas are good, the ripe bananas, and you want to eat 3 bananas at one sitting, that one you are doing harm to yourself. So the way to go about eating the right food is to eat the right portion, to eat the right serving. A serving of these whole cereals, whole bread, is, for example, a slice of bread. One slice of bread. Will you agree with me if I told you that in your plate, I'm only serving a slice of bread, I'm applying honey in it, isn't it? I'm applying a honey in it, and there in between, I'm putting some tomatoes. Putting some tomatoes. I will not bring any other bread, another slice of bread to cover it, to make a sandwich. But I will simply fold. I will simply fold this bread, this slice of bread. Will you agree with me, together with a cup of water, that you've had enough for that sitting? And a cup of milk. Many of you will not agree with me, but that is the way to go. That is the way to go. When handling what we eat and how we eat, diligence, temperance, has to be emphasized. If you are not diligently following the quantities, even if you are eating the right food, you will still not attain it. You will still not maintain it. If, for example, you realize that you are within the category of overweight, obesity, then you decide that now, my strategy is I'm not going to eat lunch. I'm not going to eat breakfast. I'm not going to eat supper. But I will eat maybe a glass of carrot juice. A glass of carrot juice. Then that way still you are also doing more harm to yourself than if you just ate haphazardly, or if you just ate carelessly. Because one, if you are going to skip the meals and your body is used to getting that, it is used to getting boomerang with all that calories, with all that, then the next time you starve it, you are starving it because you are refraining from taking breakfast, you are refraining from taking lunch, you are refraining from taking the meals in a bid to now lose weight. The next time you are going to eat the food, the next time food will be available to you, you will compensate. You will eat it like compensating. And this can just come unconsciously. You just find yourself, you are eating, isn't it? You just find yourself, you are eating, and therefore, the body, the way it works, you cannot compensate for the calories you didn't eat yesterday. You cannot compensate for ugali you didn't eat yesterday. You will find yourself eating and consuming even more. So the best way to handle that bit of the quantities, just serve enough food. Just serve enough food. Possibly, food is on the table. Just serve enough food. Once you are convinced you have served what is enough for you, eat. Then, if possible, food should be out of your sight, isn't it? Yeah, that food should be out of your sight. Because if it is still there on the table, you will be tempted to go for more. You will be tempted to go for more, and then you will realize that at one sitting, just in a single meal, you've overeaten. You've overeaten, and then you will now tend to forgo maybe lunch, the next meal, saying that you had eaten enough for the whole day. But the way your metabolism works, the way it is accustomed, is that it needs to eat. So the next time you will expose it again to food, you will tend to be driven by appetite, you will tend to be driven by those hormonal needs. Then you end up eating more than you need to eat. Now, if you are going to again eat the right food, I've talked of the wheat, the bread group, the whole grains, the whole cereals, and then now talking of these proteins. Proteins are purely for bodybuilding. Proteins, they are purely for bodybuilding. It's only in circumstances of starvation when the body can convert the proteins, the amino acids, into glucose so that it uses it to support its functions. But this glucose that is converted from the proteins, the brain cells will not utilize it. I did mention that the brain cells, the preferred form of energy is glucose from carbohydrates. And so with these proteins, somebody may feel like because of my BMI, body mass index, let me put aside the carbohydrates. Then I concentrate on the proteins. So you tend to eat proteins in your plate. You don't want to see any carbohydrate. But you are forgetting that this type of protein that you are eating, for example, the animal-based proteins, they are high in fat, what we call the cholesterol, the triglycerides. So when you talk of putting on hold or not consuming the carbohydrates, you want to compensate it from consuming the proteins. You are only eating the meats, you are only eating milk, whole milk. Then again, you are also predisposing yourself to overweight, to obesity, because that kind of fat in the animal products is not healthy fat. It is not healthy fat. So, okay. Some of these proteins, the good protein sources are plant-based proteins. Plant-based proteins, but I'm not saying that should you eat animal-based proteins, eat lean meats. Lean meat meaning that it is free from fat. Now the issue is, how will you separate the fat in meat so that it is lean? It is this part, it is this cut that is free from fat. And again, I appreciate so much you hear people talk of, if you are eating, you avoid red meats, you avoid all this. So you want to avoid it because you want to attain and maintain a healthy body mass index. So where possible, eat sparingly or limit consumption of red meats, consumption of this animal fat, animal-based proteins. But you can utilize more of this plant-based proteins. Where you are using plant-based proteins, because plant-based proteins, they are also limited in essential proteins. The essential proteins are those that are able to promote the bodybuilding when singly consumed, so that if you ate an egg, it is able to produce those building blocks for the eye, for your skin, for all those tissues, as compared to the plant-based protein. If you consumed beans, it doesn't have all those essential proteins. But that is not that does not mean that we should not consume them. If you opt, or if you are a vegetarian, you would still consume a combination of two of plant-based proteins in a meal, so that you are increasing your chances of getting these essential proteins that are supportive of building the body tissues and the likes. But again, you must watch on the quantities of the plant-based proteins that you are consuming, and also the type. If you consume the dehuled beans, that which does not have its skin, then you'd better just eat it, isn't it? And when it comes to now protein, the dairy products and all that, again, it is also good to consume low-fat dairy products. The low-fat dairy products, like the skimmed milk, like the low-fat milk. And where possible, milk can be consumed in the fermented form. The fermented form, for example, the yogurt, the mala, they have some, we call them probiotics. They have probiotics which in a way tend to manage the fat or the cholesterol that is in the body. So where milk is your option for protein, then consume the low-fat milk, low-fat dairy products. And where possible, consume just enough. A serving of milk is 250 ml glass. The 250 ml glass. That is a serving of milk. And this serving of milk, it can be enough. It can be enough for you. A serving of milk, it can be enough for you. So that even with the milk, if you consumed it, it will be able to promote the tissue growth because it has all those essential amino acids. And now, focusing on the fat, even as I finish, focusing on the fat, we know that fat is also plays a role in producing the energy that the body uses, and there are various types of fats. We have what we call the fats, and then we have the oils, we have the triglycerides, we have the cholesterol, which is in essence not a fat as such, but it is in that family. So with cholesterol, the cholesterol is obtainable from animal fats, animal products. Plants do not have any cholesterol in them. And then with this cholesterol, there are those groups of cholesterol. We have the cholesterol that combines with the proteins so that they are able to transport the fat based vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So with this combination of cholesterol, especially when cholesterol is excess in the body, then it will be able to contribute what we call the plaque. This plaque builds up slowly but gradually based on the types of fat that we consume. Remember, cholesterol is 100% produced by the body for its use. So the moment you are still getting more food, you are overloading your body with the cholesterol. So it builds up, forming these plaques, and with these plaques, the culprit or the at-risk organ is the heart, the blood, the arteries. It gets into the arteries, it deforms the anatomy or the structure of the artery so that it is narrower, and it is there which the blood now flows through. So when it becomes narrower because some plaque, the form of cholesterol is already in it, and then the more we eat this cholesterol, the more we eat this fat, it keeps building, and at one point you realize that it is completely blocked, and then stroke strikes, and many of those arterial conditions, the heart conditions. And with the heart conditions now, we know that God is the healer, isn't it? Yeah, so with all this, I'm sorry that I have consumed all. We are unable to even address any of those questions, but may God help us so that we eat to the glory of God as presented in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. In our eating, in our drinking, we do all to the glory of God. Thank you so much. Yes, the tricky bit of it is that Elianto animal-based product does not have cholesterol. People's interest with the fat and all that, even the reason Elianto is and the likes, now people are so much into oils and like the fats, isn't it? It's because plants, just like I said, they don't have any cholesterol. It is the animal fat that has, it is the animal-based products that have cholesterol. So with Elianto, because you are not processing it yourself, in the process of producing Elianto, in the process of producing these oils, the refining, all those processing processes, so that Elianto is what it is, and for it also to keep that long shelf life, to keep fresh, there are those additives. There are those that we call additives that are put in it that prevent what we call the acidity and all that. So at the end of the day, you may be consuming Elianto because it is cholesterol free, but because you are not sure of all those processes, it might be a risk. And again, even if it is Elianto, you don't need to consume a lot of it at once. It is a bit, just using enough, not too much. And just what you have said, if you want to know the good oil, for example, Elianto, you see Elianto, it is packaged in clear bottles, isn't it? Yeah. The reason I tend to avoid the one that is packed in the opaque jerry cans. If you kept Elianto, you used Elianto for cooking, and then you let it settle. The moment you look at the Elianto again, you are not seeing any fat. It's not solidifying. It doesn't solidify. That is good Elianto. That is pure Elianto. That is good oil. And if it solidifies, you cook with it, it solidifies. You don't even cook with it, it settles there. It's getting solid. It's turning into a solid. That is not a plant-based. That is not cholesterol-free, but it has some components of bad fat. Amen.